Hey, Susan. Hey, everybody out there. It's time for Thirsty Thursday, that roundup where we talk about all things that we found thirsty on the internet or that we're thirsty for, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of that. And this is our last one of the year. So we thought we'd kind of do a 2020 thirst review, right, Susan?
Yeah, we did a summer hit list review and some of the things are in common, but yeah, there's a few themes for the year and we thought we'll cover off some of them. But we started Thirsty Thursday and we've done quite a few, haven't we? We should count. We've done quite a few. We started
in the spring. We started in the spring.
Yeah. We started in the spring and we started to really enjoy like looking at what's in the news on the marketing front and gaining inspiration from it or laughing at it or whatever it might be. And the original heritage obviously is that we like to talk about our own episode of the podcast and what it touched on. So do you want to start there real quick, Will?
The podcast episode, I think to me, when I listened to the episode, it very much signified what we were talking about. It's that burnout we're all experiencing at the end of the year, maybe more so than ever. So I think we called it like, get it done so you can shut it down. And that's what we've been doing this whole month. And that's what, as of Friday, we're going to shut down for a couple weeks, which will be quite nice. So if you want to get some tips on how to get it done before you shut it down and how to stay shut down until you come back, go give that podcast a listen.
That's cool. And in terms of so let's dive into what we saw that were overarching themes this year. What do we have first on our list?
We were going to talk about purpose over profit.
Yeah. This is the year of the pandemic. It will forever be that story we tell our grandkids, remember in 2020? So I think given the amount of change and major stuff that went down this year, people had to seriously recenter to their values, right? We talked on a few occasions about how values was something that just sort of sat in your PowerPoint and nobody really looked at it. But this was the year that you had to really pull out your values. You had to stand for something. You had to have like a clear purpose. And when the pandemic broke out and lots of people were getting into trouble for their pre-automated messages and stuff, our advice at that time, and the same advice holds right now, is go back and think about what you stand for, and then you'll know the answer to whether or not this thing is kosher in the moment. So that, and again, later this year in June, we had the global anti-racism movement, and there was a lot of brands who were struggling to find their articulation around that. So all of that really illuminated that brands need to get clear about what they stand for. So that, not to say you have to be like a not-for-profit organization and completely give your money over to charity, none of that. It's just stand for something, be clear what that is, and don't be all about just the profit messaging. And one of our favorite examples of this year, which has been Burger King, showed that this past week a little bit with their UK, this was their UK, Burger King UK, and they had a note that they put out to small businesses and restaurants, because the UK has gone into their tier 3 in a number of areas where it's like a full lockdown. So small businesses are now going to shut. And so Burger King says that they will put other people's food on their Instagram feed. So they say there's more to life than the Whopper, and there's a whole bunch of other restaurants, and they're going to feature anyone who needs their help, which is kind of cool. It's like free advertising. And, Burger King got a couple of things wrong, but this wasn't one of them. And that purpose over profit and learning how to say it clearly, I think, was one of the big messaging pillars of the year for me.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you what my thirst for the year has been. It's been my complete change of opinion on the behemoth that is TikTok. Like this time last year, I was poo-pooing it, right? I was like, oh, it's just people looking for attention. It's stupid. Now I still think it is people looking for attention, but I recognize it as that creator's dream platform that it is right now. You can have no followers and do something really great and fun and make people laugh, and all of a sudden have 100,000 views. Like, it's amazing how you can go from not being known to being the next TikTok star. I find it fun, entertaining. According to my good friend Marissa, in a text exchange, her quote was, TikTok is the only good thing about 2020. I so agree. So
you said it, Marissa.
The next thing we wanted to talk about that we noticed brands were doing exceptionally well this year was newsjacking, right, Susan? We wanted to talk about, we've mentioned a few brands who, those cultural moments like the Monolith appearing in Utah, and some of the major brands going in and tweeting, funny things about it, or those Twitter disclaimers going in and kind of newsjacking those Twitter disclaimers. It's funny to see, and it gets your attention. And again, it's how that humor can cut through the clutter. I don't know what.
I so agree. Even the U.S. elections, right? People had so many interesting pieces of whether it was memes or GIFs or so many things that came out around it. And I think that's truly something that shows your talent as a communicator. If you can find the story, stay on top of it, and have something smart to say in response. The monolith in particular, when you talked about the one you talked about, so many brands jumped on it. Everyone from candy brands to fast food chains to all of them, even the generally slower moving ones. So I'm really pleased to see that. I think at the very least, us as brands should have some sort of listening out there in our industry where we get to hear some of these stories and take a moment. This is not just faff. You should take a moment to know what people are doing on these fronts, because maybe you can't pull it off right now, but you will be able to at some point.
And I think that's it. These brands that were once like the serious conservative brands are having some fun, right? And we know sometimes you miss when you do it, but I really like to see like the edginess coming out of a different edgier side of brands coming out. It's fun. The next we wanted to talk about, the two-way conversation model of marketing and sales.
I think the gurus have been saying it for a while. They're like, you can't just do broadcast only. But this year, I think a little bit more of a mainstream understanding of that came to play. And that's probably, again, because of COVID and the lack of being able to go to events and interact with people in an event setting. I think that sort of translated itself really nicely online, especially LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn probably killed it this year with the amount of engagement they got going between Facebook's general shame battles and the fact that the whole entire world was on there trying to connect with people and do the business discussions. It became clear that you putting on a few promotional posts and blasting off about your company's achievements wasn't going to cut it anymore. No. You truly had to show up and teach. You had to show up and learn from other people. You had to have
tell your story, right? Like, I think we were talking about this earlier. It's for me, 2020 has been the fully embracing the human side of marketing, right? We need to see that from a brand, whether it is the purpose over profit, whether it is an entrepreneur telling their story. And even if their story has some tragic, arcs in it, that's what people are relating to. Showing humor. The brands, when they newsjack and show humor, it's all about showing this human side of marketing. And I am all about that.
I really like that. And I often like to talk about it as a metaphor of, think about going into a room and trying to talk to real people. You're not going to just stand there and be like, here's my key message set. Let me just read it over and over again and see who comes by. You're going to have to go and join another conversation, say something, and then you strike it up. So I really liked seeing that online this year. I think people will do more of it. January will be like the mass exodus onto LinkedIn, when everyone's going to make New Year's resolutions about how good they're going to be at it. So yeah.
I mean, me too. Sign me up. I'm going to do that too, Susan.
I want to say you're in the top 20% already, Will. There's so many people who are not at all using it.
Okay, well, that's kind of our roundup of the year. I do want to shout out, since the lockdown, I've not cut my hair once, and it's only grown this much. I thought it would have grown longer, Susan, but it's just this long now. I look like an old Shawn Mendes.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Anyway, Susan, you have a lovely holiday break. Don't open that email unless I call you crying about some emergency.
Yes, and happy holidays, folks. Thanks for staying with us on this little journey into thirst for us in 2020.